I'm Kevin Lee, and let's queer up the USA View. Poll finds most Americans say GOP has a transphobia problem. A new YouGov poll suggests most Americans believe transphobia is a serious issue within the Republican Party. According to the survey of over 1,100 U.S. adults, 64% say transphobia is at least somewhat of a problem among Republicans, with 44% calling it a major problem. Transphobia ranked as the second biggest issue. Respondents said the GOP has taken too far, ranking just behind hostility towards immigrants. Majorities also flagged white supremacy at 62% and conspiracy thinking at 71% as problems among conservative politicians. At the same time, 60% said trans ideology was an issue among Republicans, and 61% cited gender ideology, though the poll did not define those terms. The findings come amid a surge in anti-trans legislation. In 2025 alone, 125 anti-trans bills were passed. Since 2023, more than 1,600 bills targeting queer rights have been introduced nationwide. These laws include bans on gender-affirming care for trans youth, widely described by experts as life-saving. The poll also found concerns across party lines. 45% of respondents say they believe transphobia is a problem in the Democratic Party, while 55% say it's not. Conservatively, 37% say so-called quote, wokeness, unquote, end quote, is a major problem for Democrats, while 34% think that the same about trans ideologies. This is a very sad story. Is it a surprise? No, it's not a surprise. We know that there is so much hostility towards the queer community. What you don't understand and what you're not willing to understand is why the others, the enemy, fears us, and why they are constantly trying to bring up this terminology of wokeness and use it as a weapon against us, when woke literally means, from a cultural perspective, that we are aware of what's going on. We see the light of truth. And so we're not willing to tolerate it, but it's been used against us, much like a lot of terminology. And it breaks my heart. Parents should have the unarguable rights to make medical decisions for their children, their trans children, with medical experts supporting them. And to attack that is really hypocritical? Is that the word? That's a big word for me to do. Well, there's hypocrisy. Look, hypocritical. I'll take that word. Okay. And so what I think is this. Being a nurse and being in the OR for so many years, I know that there are some surgeries that some parents do for their children to lengthen the legs, to inject them with growth hormones because they don't fit society's standards of the proper size for the child. Isn't that pretty much the same thing as changing the body of a person who is going through trans operations? They've made a decision. But in these situations, the parents are basing this on personal desires, society's thoughts and considerations, and it just is a bit crazy to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, if you want to get closer to home with that, and you being a nurse and you being in the OR, I don't know if you were ever when a child was being born, but I mean, lots of people being intersex is like having red hair. It's that common. Okay?
1 in 2,000 births. I know that number.
And when that, and you could please, if I am not a medical person, but if maybe you can co-sign me with this, right? In the emergency room, when a baby is being born, if they are born with both genitalia, they just cut the one that's hanging out more. Okay, there's no question to the parent or anything. You don't know what that kid truly is, and that kid might be walking around with the wrong genitalia. Is that wrong? Yes or no?
Well, I've never seen that part of it, but what I do know is that 1 in 2,000 births have ambiguous genitalia. So that means they can't identify externally. Is it male? Is it female? Is it both? What is it? And so there's so much ambiguity, they have to go and do genetic testing. But even then it's questionable because of the fluidity of chromosomal gender. So, and who gives a doctor the right to make a decision whether I'm male or female? Who are you to decide based on, allow me to identify myself. So the fact that a professional is identifying me and literally, legally, I don't know what you'd call it.
Giving me my gender. You're literally giving me my gender without talking to my parents.
So a professional assigns it and later in life it's a problem?
Yeah.
Well, why don't you go back to the person who assigned it?
Exactly.
Right. That's a good one.
Exactly. Again, so there's a lot of trans and gender non-conforming people just walking among us that
and
had
living
no
life
choice.
beautifully.
You know what I mean?
And right. They're living life beautifully, and a lot of them are doing very well. Some do have some psychological issues for identifying who and what they are. But I know a lot of transgender people who identify as neither male nor female, and they're very comfortable with it. And I think that is a positive trend that I'm seeing, and I'd like to see more of that.
Well, that would be a person that identifies as gender non-conforming,
Yes.
and that's completely let's just say that there's nobody here at the table who's trans, so we can't speak on the experience or what it entails to even be a trans person, right? But this poll, this poll, it's like Americans think that that a party has we have a transphobia problem in our country, but where does that come from, right? It comes also from the top.
Orthodoxy. Yep.
Right.
Amen.
Amen.
And a women.
There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by sharing them and subscribing to Queer News Tonight.